तुलसी महारानी की जय। No, no. Shamananda Vaidhi. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Purivadhyacharya Asisata Shishimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Purivadhyacharya Asisata Shishimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Anantakoti Vaishnav Vindaki ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Sekaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasili Gaur Bhakta Vindaki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Yamuna Devi Ki Ganga Devi Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Tulsi Devi Ki Vrindavan Dham Ki Mayapurdam Ki Sankirtan Yagya Ki Transcendental Book Distribution Ki the appearance day of Sri Shamananda Pandit Prabhu Ki the appearance day of Vamsi Vadana Thakur Ki the celebration of Vasant Rasa Leela of Krishna and Balaram Ki. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga Gaurpani. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, even though we're not studying Srimad Bhagavatam today because of this auspicious day of the appearance days and all. So in Orissa, there was a nice couple named Krishna Mandal and Durika, and they were Bengalis who had settled in Orissa, which is where Jagannath Puri is, and they really wanted to have children. The thing is that they did have quite a few children, but every time, as soon as the baby was born, well, maybe not as soon, but in infancy, probably the first few months of life, the baby would die. So that's very, very distressful. One of the greatest pains that a mother and can face and a father. So anyway, then they had a son and they said, we're going to name this boy Dookie. Dookie means sorrowful or or suffering. And they said, we're going to name him Dookie. Maybe the god of death will stay away from him because also in India is a kind of superstition and also black magic where one can cast an evil spell on another. So they thought, that if we name him Dookie, then nobody will be envious and cast evil spells on this baby. So sure enough, the baby he he lived and he appeared about 1 year after Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We know that he was very close friends with later on Srinivas Acharya and Narottam Das Thakur. But Narottam Das Thakur, he had appeared right before Lord Chaitanya and Srinivas Acharya about 10 years before the departure of Lord Chaitanya. So they were contemporaries, these three studying together. Later on, we'll hear under Jiva Goswami. So um, his parents, his name was not Shamananda, his name was Dookie. So his parents, they sold milk. That was his father's profession. So, which is like a Shudra profession, really. And he was, but very gifted. Like they considered themselves Shudra, but this boy was like a born philosopher and like very, very um, incredible, marvelous memory. And especially for the humble caste in which he was born, he studied Sanskrit grammar and other subjects. He was calm and sober and not interested in play like boys usually are. So now, when he grew up a little as a young teenager, the dad saw he's so inclined. He's always talking about Lord Chaitanya, and he's so devotionally inclined. He told him that you should get a guru. Find have a guru. And he said, I already know who my guru is, even though he never met him, because his guru, he lived far away in Ambika Kalna in Bengal near Mayapur. So his guru lives there, and he lives all the way in Orissa. And so he said, I know my guru is Ridoy Chaitanya. That's my guru. And the father said, and he said how he's a servant of Gauri Das Pandit. Gauri Das Pandit is Subal in Krishna Lila, and Gauri Das Pandit was a close associate of Lord Chaitanya. So he said, please let me go and beg permission from him to become his disciple. And the father said, but it's far away. They walked in those days. I mean, now it's not terribly far, like many places. Like you can take a train from Orissa to Bengal in 6 hours. That's considered very little time. But walking is going to take quite a while. So he said, that's so far away, and you're just a young boy, just a young teenager. And he said, yeah, but so many devotees are always going. They go to Bengal on pilgrimage. So when they leave Bengal, I mean, they come here and then they go back to Orissa. I'll ask them to take me with them. So the father agreed and he left. And it was very difficult, it took quite a few days. And then he finally arrived there and he just was frantically, he stayed one night with Abhiram Thakur and he asked everyone, where's the temple of Gauridas Pandit, which was right next to the house of Hridoy Chaitanya, who was the pujari and his guru. So now we know that Gauridas Pandit, like the thing about Hridoy Chaitanya, how did he get that name? He got that name because his deities, they were like he had Gornitai deities. He was worshiping them. And what happened was the this devotee, his name used to be Ridayananda, but the deities, they were being worshipped, and there was an ecstatic festival going on. The Goridas Pandit, he was observing that the pujari was doing the artik and all, and then outside there was a big kirtan, and when it reached its climax, the deities became so ecstatic they jumped off the altar and went into the kirtan. So their pujari, Goridas Pandit, he like got a stick and was chasing them. Get back on the altar. What are you doing? Get back on the altar. And the deities became afraid. Some say both, some say just Lord Chaitanya. He leapt into the heart. He was afraid of Gauridas Pandit, and he leapt into Hridayananda's heart. And then another set sprang back onto the altar. So that's why Hridayananda became known as Hridoy Chaitanya, because Lord Chaitanya um, went right into his heart. So that's why they have Jonaki Darshan. Jonaki Darshan, they open the curtains just for a few seconds and then close them because they think the deities might get attracted to a devotee and jump off the altar again. So they do this, and even to this day, they're afraid. Okay, all right. So now, what happened was he finally arrived in the temple, and right away, so his let's see, taught the boy Goridas. So, oh yeah, so his guru, Hridoy Chaitanya, he immediately could tell, he went and took shelter of him, and he could tell this boy is very special. He's very bright and very devotional. And so he just every day would he had deep affection. They both did for each other. And then he initiated him and gave him the name Krishna Das. So no longer was he Duki, although they called him Duki Krishna Das, and he was Hridoy Chaitanya's best disciple. So then Duki Krishnadas asked his guru's permission to travel, and he went to holy places and all the places associated with Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. And then so many holy places he visited for about a whole year traveling. So then he asked Hridaya Ananda, when he saw that he has so much, potential and devotion. And so he told his guru, Hridoy Chaitanya, told him, go to Vrindavan and study the Vaishnav literature under Jiva Goswami, because Jiva Goswami has just established a school, a theological school for advanced students. So and he wrote a note to Jiva Goswami, please take him under your care and teach him. And so he went there and he gave the note to Jiva Goswami, and there's not a whole lot of time. So when Jiva Goswami saw him, he started crying, so ecstatic, and he said, now Mahaprabhu's plan was complete, because Srinivas Narottam and Duki Krishnadas were to get it together, because his mission, we know this is a whole other chapter, which we don't have time for today, but at that time, you see, the Goswamis were residing in Vrindavan. The Goswamis were writing all these incredible literature, and the devotees over in Bengal, in Mayapur, they didn't have these books. So what was the desire of Jiva, that these books be taken to the devotees over there in Mayapur so that they can have them. And so he's thinking, all right, these are going to be the ones after we complete, after they study for a while, then then they will be able to engage in this mission. And that was quite an adventure. Just to make it very brief, those books, these were originals, not no photocopy machine, and and nothing. Original books, handwritten on leaf palms, and and so they got stolen because an astrologer told the king Birumbar that there's these three mendicants traveling. They have a great treasure in their trunk. They didn't know what it was. They thought it must be jewels and gold money, and but it was these books, the great treasure. So the king had them stolen. But anyways, but imagine the anxiety. You know, your guru sends you on a mission, your shiksha guru, and then you lose all of the books that they, this is like Gopal Champani, Gopal Champu, all the Sat Sandarbhas and all these books lost. So incredible anxiety. We just can't imagine, like, you know what I mean? If we even lost like printed books that can easily be replaced, we'd be in anxiety if our guru, gave us that service to go deliver them. It was a long ride on bullock cart, right? So now that's another story, but they did get them back. So now when he went there, like first of all, like he went to study under Jiva Goswami, but the thing was that like sometimes we think someone who sweeps the temple or something, it's like a menial service, like a low service for someone who can't do anything else. But it is such every single service is such an elevated service and opportunity for connection to the Lord, and it can be a very intimate service. But especially for Duki Krishnadas, he was given the service of the sweeping the kutir, the Kolpa Kunj kutir, where Radha and Krishna and the gopis engaged in the rasa dance, which is very close to in Vrindavan, well, very close to Shamananda's. Well, later he became Shamananda. But anyway, he was given the service every day. He would sweep the kunj where Radha and Krishna danced at night, and he would just be so happy doing that service. And also, he would bring a pot of water for Sri Jiva Goswami, and internally always emerged. And while he was sweeping, he'd be reciting verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam. So one day he's sweeping, and he sees, well, the night before, there was a really, really intensely ecstatic rasa dance going on. And when they went back home, right when the night is ending, the gopis go back home, and Krishna too. And then Lalita said, "Where's your ankle bell?" And she said, "Oh, I must have dropped it there." Sometimes it's like that she left it there on purpose for him. But and then can you go get it, Lalita? Now, like one thing is there's kind of different versions of this story, and maybe it's because others are seeing it in different ways, or because it happened more than once. But I'm always amazed that when very confidential pastimes, we're reading about them, we're hearing about them. You're going to hear like that no one else knew about this, not even his own guru, unless later. But anyway, what happened was he's sweeping. He finds this beautiful golden um, golden ankle bracelet, and he thinks, "Wow, this is so beautiful." And it looks like not an ordinary. And he touches it to his head, and he feels ecstasy just by touching it. So he thought, this is so, it's like glowing and all. The whole kunj was glowing from this ankle bracelet. He said, I had better bury it because anyone would want to take this, considering it's so valuable. And he buried it, and and his shovel, he had a little spade, like a gardener's spade, and it turned gold just by touching that. So now what happened was he just touching that to his head, though, before that, he was so much overcome, with ecstatic symptoms. So after a while, he came to his senses because he had actually fainted. Then what happened was Lalita Devi came. Sometimes it says later Vishaka, but Lalita came and said, "Oh, excuse me, because since you sweep here, have you found an ankle bracelet? It belongs to my friend, and she's newly married, and she lost her ankle bracelet here last night when she was going to fetch water because there was a well nearby." And another story says Lalita disguised herself as an old lady and said, "It's my daughter in law's ankle bracelet." And he's like, well, he knew this is not an ordinary ankle bracelet that does not belong to an ordinary girl. Besides, Lalita Devi was so incredibly beautiful and she spoke so sweetly. He thought, like, who is this? And he said, all right, well, tell whoever it belongs to, she has to come. I'll only give it to her. I'll give it to the person it belongs to. And she's like, oh, she's way too shy to come. And then finally, well, she has to. That's how she's going to get it. So she went. uh, Alita went and brought her, but she stood in the bushes nearby, and just seeing her from a distance, he was so overwhelmed, with just love. And then when he saw her, he said, "Okay, I'll give the ankle bracelet." And then Lalita said she would like to give you something in exchange, anything in exchange for this, because I don't want anything. I only want the dust of her feet. And so she told Radha, okay, well, you can't get the dust of Radha's feet in a male body. So, Krishna Das, you have to come into this kunj here, bathe in this kunj, and then come out. And then Krishna Dasi, became a gopi form and said, now you can get the dust, touch the feet of Radha. And then Srimati Radharani put the ankle bracelet on his head again, and it made a mark with a bindi in the middle, the point of it. The tilak appeared. It stayed there, the mark of that golden ankle bracelet. And then she said, so your name is Shamananda, because Shama is the name of Radha, and you gave bliss so Lalita gave him this name. You gave bliss to Radharani, so your name is Shamananda. And now you can assume your male form now as Krishnadas. So he comes into his male form, into kind of external consciousness. We can imagine how ecstatic he is, but Lalita tells him, can't tell anybody about this. And here we are hearing about it. You can't tell anybody, only one person. You can tell Jiva Goswami because he's his Shiksha guru. So you can tell him. So he starts walking back to the ashram, and Jiva Goswami meets him on the way, and he goes, what happened to you? He said, your body's like golden color, and you have this tilak. Where'd you get that tilak? And he's gushing tears, like just tears of prema falling from his eyes. And he said, what happened? And he said, okay, I can tell you, but you can't tell anybody else. And so he tells him the whole story. And Jiva Goswami's like, you are so fortunate. And so then we can just imagine if one of our devotees, all of a sudden they have on different tilak and they have a new name. So then the word spreads. Shamananda, he got reinitiated, and of course, reinitiation. We have one Diksha guru. We can have many Shiksha gurus, And so word spread, and they're all talking. Jiva Goswami must have initiated him. He has a new name and new tilak. So his guru is all the way in Bengal. So the word gets to him that that your disciple, his best disciple, he he has a new name, and he got reinitiated, and so the guru's like, what? He sends three disciples. He writes a letter to Jiva Goswami. Go see, is this true? Is this true? And so they give a letter to Jiva, because really, Shamananda said, it's all by the mercy of my guru that I had this darshan of Radharani, and that I found the ankle bracelet. It's really because of my deep devotion and meditation to my guru, Hridai Chaitanya. So, what happens is, when he goes, so then when Jiva gets the letter, he's like, oh, like, I would never do that. I would never reinitiate somebody, but he can't tell where he got the name because it's confidential. So they can't even tell the guru. So Jiva Goswami writes a letter. He said, it's really only by your mercy. This came to him you appeared to him like a kind of a white lie, I guess, or you appeared to him in a dream and you gave him this name. And you gave him that tilak. And so he's like, that's nonsense. I never appeared to him in a dream. As far as I remember, I never appeared to him in a dream. And he's just making this up. And then he goes, all right, I'm going to go. I'm going to Vrindavan. And he got a whole entourage to come with him, like all of the great mahants, and the swamis, and like a lot, like more than 100 or 200 devotees. That's a long way to go. And they all went to Vrindavan, and they kind of had an interrogation of him. They got Shamananda and said, now tell us the truth. Like, we just want to say that if you tell us the truth, then we have the power to absolve you of your lie, that you've been lying. We know you've been lying because dreams are not real, and we don't give much credence to them. So tell us why. Like, how did you really come to this, to get this name and this tilak? So, so he said, I promise it's by the mercy of my guru, Hridai Chaitanya. And he said, all right, well, I'm gonna wipe it off, and if it doesn't come off, then I'll know it's true. So the guru and he also writes Shamananda on his chest, Shaman, and he tries to wipe them off, and it just reappears. So then they're all, this whole assembly, interrogating him, and then they said, all right, now tell us the truth, what happened. He said, okay, can I just have a few minutes to think about how to compose myself? See, because Shamananda is Kanaka Manjari, and so he just sat there in his meditative form, and then that and then went to speak to Radharani. But so anyway, he, Shamananda. Oh yeah. But anyway, they still thought that he's lying. So what happened was Srimati Radharani herself appeared to Hridai Chaitanya in his dream. Although we think, they're saying dreams aren't real, now Srimati Radharani appeared to Hridai Chaitanya and told him, you are a great aparadi. You are so offensive. I personally gave that name to your disciple Krishna Das, Duki Krishna Das. I gave him that name, and you're so offensive to not believe him and not honor him. He's a very elevated devotee, and this is such a great offense that you're committing and interrogating him like this. And so then he realized, oh, it's true. And then he went and begged forgiveness, and that's just a little bit, but there's not much time. And so that is like, yeah, that's just like totally. But Shamananda later made many disciples. One of his most prominent disciples is Rasikananda Prabhu. Rasikananda Prabhu, he had a disciple named Gopal who was an elephant even. But so so now we are going to move on because it's also the Rasa Leela. Now we know that in the autumn time, right, there's Rasa Leela of Krishna and Balaram, but also in the springtime, there is also Rasa Leela of Krishna and Balaram. And um, and at this time, we used to do this. Remember, they the devotees make sweet rice and put it on the roof of wherever they are, or in if they have a big yard or garden, put out a pot of sweet rice for Radha Krishna to have after the Rasa Leela. Um, I'm not. Let me see. 20. Okay. I just want to see. Okay. All right. It's just a little bit about spring. Spring Rasa Leela. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 34, and text 20. Once Lord Govinda and Lord Ram, the performers of wonderful feats, were playing in the forest at night with the young girls of Raja. Krishna and Balaram wore flower garlands and spotless garments, and their limbs were beautifully decorated and anointed. The women sang their glories in a charming way, bound to them by affection. The two lords praised the nightfall, signaled by the rising of the moon and the appearance of stars, a lotus scented breeze, and bees intoxicated by the fragrance of jasmine flowers. Krishna and Balaram sang, producing the entire the entire range of musical sounds simultaneously. Their singing brought happiness to the ears and minds of all living beings. Wow. Someday we'll hear Krishna and Balaram sing, huh? The gopis became stunned when they heard that song. Forgetting themselves, O king, they did not notice that their fine garments were becoming loose and their hair and garlands disheveled when Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram thus played according to their own sweet will and sang to the point of apparent intoxication. A servant of Kubera named Shankachuta came. So that's that. Now Balaram, his most celebrated rasa dance of Balaram is much later, after Vrindavan, when Balaram decides in Dwarka that he would go, hearing how and knowing how the residents of Vrindavan are feeling so much separation from he wants to go for a visit and to try to placate them and to soothe their hearts. So Balaram goes, and then he goes to visit, first Nanda and Yashoda, and he sits on their lap and they began their perpetual crying, and he met, with everyone according to the etiquette of like those who are older. He paid obeisances to them and touched their feet, and then the older cowherd men, and then the cowherd boys. They all embraced each other, and then of course he was going to meet the gopis. So he has his own gopis, Balaram, whom he dances with, and he danced with them. He stayed there for 2 months, and so, but Krishna's gopis, they're saying, does Krishna ever remember us? Like they said this also when they talked to the bumblebee, that now, or Radharani, Srimati Radharani spoke to the bumblebee. Now Krishna's there in Mathura, and those girls are so cultured, and they're so So beautiful. Does he ever remember us? Does he ever remember his poor mother and father whom he abandoned and all of us? And is he ever going to come back to Vrindavan? Or is he just going to stay there? You know, we string flower garlands for him every day. Is he ever going to come and accept those flower garlands? You know, they just stay here and just tell him, you know, that it's not good. Everyone's very forlorn that he moved away like that. So Balaram, that's when, oh yeah, when we have the Balaram drinks Varuni beverage, and this Varuni beverage, we were that was being spoken of the other day, wasn't it? Like, what is it? We usually say it's honey, but it says that it's you know it's oozing from the hollows of trees. So honey doesn't come from hollows of trees; it comes from beehives, unless it dripped on the tree. So usually a syrup like maple syrup comes from the sap of a tree. So I don't know exactly, but we say kind of like honey, and it's intoxicating beverage. And Balaram and the gopis would drink this beverage and become intoxicated, and they Balaram's eyes would be rolling in his head, and all. So that they Balaram enjoyed very much, and everyone was so happy to have his association. So to try to squeeze everyone in today, today is also the appearance day of Sri Vamsi Vadana Thakur. And Vamsi means flute. So imagine he's the incarnation of Krishna's flute. How that can be is like because everything's a conscientious being in the spiritual world. So even the flute is alive, and just like even the churning butter, like when Krishna broke the butter pot and pulled down the trees, you know, the butter pot and the rope and the, I mean the also the grinding mortar. It's all conscientious living entities. So Mahaprabhu, he came to have darshan of his mother and his mother Ganga, and he and see because Madhava is the brother. Let's see, Shibam Sivadana. He appeared. Oh, today's the full moon day, huh? The full moon day. Yes, of course, that's the best time to have a rasa dance, isn't it? So this devotee, Sri Sri Yudhisthira Chattopadhyay, he had three sons, Madhava, Sri Hari, and Sri Krishna Sampati. So Madhava, he had a son named Vamsi Thakur. Yes, so he's the son of Madhava. And so on the day of his birth, the day that he was born, Mahaprabhu was present. He was staying there at his house, at his parents' house, Madhava's house, along with Advaita Acharya. And sorry, Madhava, his father, was a very great devotee of Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Chaitanya was very affectionate to him as well. And Vamsi, after Lord Chaitanya left, just like you know how they have a servant, Sachimata Ishan, also Vamsi, he engaged in the service of Vishnu Priya, and he was the receptacle of her unlimited mercy. And so one time, Vishnu Priya and Vamsi Thakur, they decided, let's just give up our body because they were both feeling so much pain of separation from Lord Chaitanya. They decided to leave their bodies. How? They just stopped eating and stopped drinking water. And they said, there's no sense. Why should we maintain this body that's racked with pain? But Lord Chaitanya didn't like that. So he personally appeared, although he had already departed, he appeared before them and he said, don't be so rash like that. He said, here, you should worship a deity of me to mitigate your feelings of separation. So Vamsivadana, he brought a deity of Mahaprabhu from Mayapur. He got a deity to Kulia, and the deity, that was after. So they both worshiped this deity of Mahaprabhu. Then after Vishnu Priya left, Vamsivadana brought the deity from Mayapur to Kulia, and it's very beautiful deity and still being worshipped there. Imagine the deities are worshipped forever. Like our Radha Golokananda will be worshipped for thousands of years, won't they? I mean, like it's unbelievable, and hundreds. I mean, so so now the name of the temple is Dameshwar, and the deity Vamsi Vadana, his name is carved on the bottom on the base of the deity, like that. Is this it? So all glories to Vamsi Vadana and Shamananda and Krishna and Balaram's Rasa dance. Jai Hare Krishna. Oh, I'm not sure. The
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Enam Kanganda Maravindanalaya Tatam Bhagavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundaratam Tandar Ako Vidamaniya Vishesha Shobha Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Bhajami Andaniya Sasakalen Priya Privimanti Vasyanti Vikayanti Gira Vedanti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami
Yashomati Nandana Vrajabaranagara Gokula Ranjana Kana Yashomati Nandana Vrajabaranagara Gokula Ranjana Kana Gopi Paranadhana Madhana Manohara Kaliya Damana Vidana Amalari Nama Meya Vilasa Vipina Purandara Vinana Karabhara Vashivadana Suvasa Braja Jana Palana Surakula Nashana Nanda Godana Raghuvala Govinda Madana Vanita Daskara Sundarananda Gopala Yamuna Tattachara Gopi Vasanahara Rasa Rasika Kripamoya Shri Radha Vallabha Vrindavana Tavara Bhakti Vinoda Shaya Yashomati Nandana Vrajabaranagara Gokula Ranjana Kana Amala Harinama Miya Vilasa Govinda Madhava Navanita Taskara Shirata Malava Vrindavana Natavara Bhakti Vinoda Shaya Jaya Radha Golokananda Radha Golokananda Radha Golokananda Sri Radhe. Jaya Giri Govardhan Jaya Giri Govardhan Giri Govardhan Jaya Giri Govardhan Jaya Gauranitai Nitai Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Sri Radhe 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 Jaya Jaya Sri Radhe 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 Jaya Jaya Sri Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Sri Radhe or Priyanandi. So we can all read together. Lord Krishna is the beloved son of Yashoda, transcendental lover in the land of Raj, the delight of Gokula, known by the nickname Kana, the wealth of the lives of the gopis, the attractor of Cupid, and punisher of the serpent Kaliya. These pure holy names of Lord Hari are full of sweet nectarian pastimes, Lord of the 12 forests of Raj, ever youthful, the best of lovers, player of the flute, and excellent dresser, protector of the inhabitants of Raj, destroyer of demonic dynasties, keeper and tender of Nanda's cows, giver of pleasure to cows, land, and spiritual senses, husband of the goddess of fortune, but a thief, and beautiful little cowherd boy of Nanda Maharaj, wanderer of the Yamuna riverbanks, thief of the garments of the gopis, enjoyer of the mellows of the rasa dance, very merciful, lover and beloved of Sri Radha, the great dancer of Vrindavan, and the only shelter of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Ki Jai, Shri Radha Golokananda, Ki Jai, Harinam Sankirtan, Ki Jai.
Nirvapanam Kairavya Chandrika Vataranam Vidyavadu Jivanam Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam Pratipanam Purnamrita Swadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahuda Nita Sarva Shaktis Tatrapita Niyamita Smarane Nakala Etadrishita Vakripa Bhagavan Mamapi Durdaiva Midrishami Hajanina Nuraga Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sahishuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Va Jagadishakamaye Mama Janmani Janmani Ishvare Bhavatad Bhaktira Hoitaki Twai Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mam Vishameva Vamudao Kripaya Tavapada Pankajas Tita Duli Sadrushim Pachintaya Nayanam Galadashu Daraya Varanam Gadgadaradaya Kira Pulakarnishitam Vapukada Tavanamagrahaneva Vishyati Yugayatam Nimishena Chakshusha Pravashayana Shunayatam Jagat Sarvam Govindam Virahena Me Aslishiva Badaratam Panastumam Adarshanam Marmata Karotuva Yatatata Vabindatolam Patomat Prananatastusa Evanapara. Victory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, congregational chanting of your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you've invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than a straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O Son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. Oh, my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my eyes be decorated with tears up in meditation of your name? Oh, Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace or makes me brokenhearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he's always my worshipful Lord unconditionally.